I once shared an analogy about the nature of thoughts and emotions. And it's quite interesting because I used the example of a sellotape. Okay, when you've got a piece of tape and you stick something onto the wall, if for whatever reason you decide to reuse that same tape to stick something else, what ends up happening is you'll find that the sellotape isn't as effective anymore. It's not as sticky anymore. And so when you keep using that sellotape, eventually it just completely doesn't stick anymore. Now, this is the same with thoughts and emotions. When a thought comes and it's completely ordinary, like, oh wow, what a nice day, right? The sun's out. This notion, this thought comes, and it might come with a feeling of warmth. It doesn't stick around much because it's embraced. You've allowed it to stick, you know? But if an unpleasant thought comes along, if you resist that and reject that, you're not allowing the thought or the emotion to stick. And so every time it comes back, it's very sticky still, and it keeps wanting to come back. And so you're not really giving it its own right. You're not honoring the thought. You're not honoring the experience or whatever is manifesting itself in that moment. Whatever you don't honor in the moment will linger around, will follow you around. And so I thought I would share this because when I look at the spiritual sort of things, when I look at people's videos, when I have conversations, even psychologists and these professionals, that are supposed to like help people, calm their mind and all of this stuff. One thing that I notice is that there seems to it just seems to be okay to distract yourself away from a memory. It's okay to distract yourself away from an unpleasant thought or an emotion. And that just is so absurd to me because the moment you try to distract yourself away, the moment you try to run away, the moment you try to dampen something, through the use of substances or whatever, the moment you don't want to address any aspect of this being, what you're basically saying is, I'm not okay with reality. I'm not okay with the way things are, right? And that's you trying to say, how dare you, reality, display something that I don't want to see, right? And many people, they come at this with a sort of victim type of mentality, that they are the victims here, right? But really, the underlying notion is, how dare reality display XYZ to me when I don't want that? That is like the epitome of selfishness. That is the epitome of selfishness. Because you're trying to alter reality. You're trying to alter what, life or God has bestowed upon you. And so, really, the problem is not reality in itself. It's always been you or I. It's always been this internal narrative that tries to go against the flow of the current experience. It's actually really crazy when you just understand this and see this. Where does this self-entitlement come from? Where, you don't want reality to appear as it is, to be as it is. A certain thought comes up, a certain emotion comes up, and you're like, uh, let me pick up the phone, let me do something. You're distracting yourself away from just being as you are, you know? What if this thought or emotion that you are repressing, you are resisting, if you are fortunate enough to even recognize and see that you are trying to resist it and run away from it, this very thought and emotion that you are resisting, what if when it appears and it comes up, you just sit with it, you know? And the thought will, the mind will come up with so many different thoughts. You know, I've experienced this myself and I've spoken to people about this. It's like, wait, what if the feeling never goes? You know? What there really is there is an idea created. There's almost like a fear of the feeling rather than the feeling itself. Now, this feeling could be sadness, it could be a memory that is linked with a particular feeling, you know. It's usually always a trigger towards the actual feeling, you know, regardless as to what the idea or the primary memory is. But whenever it comes up, you know, what really is the problem is the fear of it coming up. You know, over time it becomes almost this thing that's you're constantly, you know, anxious because it might haunt you. It might appear whenever as you're going on with your life. But ultimately, what there is there's a fear and a idea or an opinion about a specific memory. You know, a fear or an opinion about a specific sort of reality that you are worried might come up or might take place, right? And so all that needs to happen is to recognize that whatever experience appears in the moment is just an experience. It's just what it is. It's just how it is. And then after that comes all the opinions, all the justifications as to why you should or shouldn't experience something. You know, it all comes afterwards. So, what would happen if we just embrace the experience without creating this narrative of how we should orchestrate ourselves? What if we don't try to prepare ourselves when a particular thought or a feeling comes up? You know, we spend many hours, days, weeks, you know, just trying to prepare for a particular thing to happen, and usually always never goes to plan anyway. What if that same experience that you are now avoiding, you actually stop for a second, turn around and say, you know what? What am I really avoiding? You know, why am I afraid? Right? And so you can see how this whole mechanism, right, orchestrates a life that is driven by fear. You know, anytime there's any sense of resistance or avoidance, you know, very often, not all cases, it's driven by fear, right? And the only thing I could say about that, it's how unfortunate to be living this beautiful life driven by fear, you know. Instead, if we cherish the spontaneity and the mystery of whatever takes place, right? And we embrace, regardless of the opinions and justifications of how we want reality to be, we embrace whatever comes our way. Like this, it's a path of humility. You know, in the face of existence, you are now looking around saying, you know what? I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's around the corner, you know? And no matter what happens, it's just the way it is. And I'm grateful for that, right? And you have this smile and this gratitude, you know, there's no real reason for it, right? There's no real reason for this peace now. It doesn't need a reason, it doesn't need an opinion and justification. It doesn't need something to operate, you know, how you should determine your perspective. It's just really going back to, you know, and the simpler place, rather than the complicated, convoluted, sort of imaginative, planned out, strategized, fully of agenda kind of place, you know? Instead, it's just, this is it, this is how it is, you know? And then you get all these different thoughts and opinions, and it's like, well, that's so crap. What you gonna do? Well, you can't live like this when the world is going through XYZ, and you can't, do this when someone's trying to take advantage of you, and you can't. No. As a matter of fact, when you come back to this simpler place, you are going from a place of chaos, the strategy and the turbulence and all of this. You're coming from a place of chaos to a place of stillness. And naturally, there is clarity. When there is clarity, you can see right through the guy or girl or whoever that's trying to manipulate you. It's so clear, it becomes so clear now. Whereas if you try to interpret it through your own opinions and thoughts and memories and experiences and so on, you'll be sat there, cycling around the narratives and imagination, and you still won't know what's going on. But actually, if, there isn't an agenda, you just see, like, hey, this person wants something from me, Is it a good idea to give it to them? Maybe not, right? So there's actually clarity now. With this clarity, how do I position myself in a world that's full of violence and pain and chaos, right? With that clarity, it's like, wait, hold on a second. I'm trying to solve this fight over there when I'm over here with so much turbulence and chaos within me. I could fix everything around me, but as long as there's chaos and turbulence within me, right, eventually that will manifest itself outwardly. That will sort of be expressed in my actions, in my expressions at some point. And it will then create a domino effect, and other people will always take that on board. Clarity, right, is really slept on. It's really slept on. It's like you're looking at life in such a blurry way for such a long time, and all of a sudden you put on the spectacles that just make things look like it's HD again, you know? It's really underrated. Clarity is really underrated, and believe me, it's impossible to gain clarity because of the movement of thought. Let me rephrase that. It's impossible to gain clarity or to have clarity when being dependent on the movement of thought. Dependent. Okay? So if the narratives and the thoughts and the ideas and the belief systems and the memories, right, if these are heavily depended on, you will not live a life where you will have any clarity. It just doesn't work, because really clarity is in the absence of the constant turbulence and movement. So here we're really looking at a way to not continue fueling the ideas and the imaginations and the justifications and the belief systems. Because look, what have they done for us this far? Honestly, what have they done for us? They might have made us some good money. They might have, put a roof over our head, and these things are very important, but they have not been able to solve a little feeling of depression, a little feeling of sadness, which is so much more basic and simpler and ordinary, right? It may not have helped us solve our interactions with other people. It may not have helped us understand a deeper, more profound aspect of reality that actually is missing, in a lot of people's lives. It's the reason why, life seems to have lost its colors, right? And its vibrancy. It doesn't feel like it's childlike anymore. And so, really, we're trying to come back to this sort of innocent, humble place, of purity and peace, where every moment is honored. Every moment is fully honored, regardless of what has taken place in that moment, whether it's agreed or disagreed with. We honor it by default. And with that, it's an honor to have you watch this and be here with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.